Well, hello there, and welcome to this first episode of the podcast for 2026. So glad that you're here, and I hope that you had a wonderful holiday period and you're looking forward to an amazing 2026. I wish you and your loved ones all of the success, all of the peace, all of the joy that this year can hold. And I want to start us off this year in this episode with a very important topic because I know that many of you are looking for your next role. You're looking to land your next promotion, skip level promotion, internally or externally. Before we dive in, I want to let you know, in case you haven't heard, that we are hosting a masterclass in just a couple days. So this will be on January 8th, which is a Thursday. And the topic will be how to land your skip level promotion to senior director, VP, SVP, or the C-suite externally. So those of you who know that by April of 2026, you want to be in that job. You are done dilly-dallying, you're done sort of guessing or trial and error. You want a sure thing. You want to know that you will be in that job come April 2026. That's what this masterclass is for. So go ahead and register. Click the link in the show notes and get your seat. This is a masterclass for those of you who have likely already attended one of our boot camps, our longer events where you already know my philosophy, you already know my style, and you just want to come in and get the quick and dirty. Okay, this is a 90-minute session versus our multi-day session. So if you know that you want to come in, cut to the chase, get the exact information that you need, the exact strategy that you need to land this role now, then that's what we're going to do in this masterclass. So go ahead, click the link in the show notes to get started. All right. And so, as a prelude or precursor to the masterclass, I thought what we do today is really talk about one of the biggest things that stands in the way of you landing the job that you say you want. Many of you are here again because you want to land a role, for either senior director, VP, or the C-suite. And there's one big domino. There's one big thing that stands in the way of you landing the role. And it's something nobody's talking about. Nobody talks about this because we're so focused on just the steps, get the resume, get the LinkedIn, get the cover letter, do some networking. And those are important. Those are the steps. But there's some of the between the lines, the in between that I want to cover in this episode. Okay. So today's topic is how well do you even know the role that you are pursuing? Okay, how well do you even know the role that you are pursuing? Because here's what I realized after, almost 9 years of coaching senior leaders and having countless thousands of conversations, over the years. One of the things I see is that people know that they want a particular job title. So whether that's senior director all the way to the C-suite, and they likely know what kind of income, what kind of compensation they want to make. But oftentimes that's where it stops. So they know somebody might know, well, I'm currently a director. I know I want to be senior director or I want to be VP and I want to make $250,000 in base and I want to make $500,000 in total comp. And when asked, okay, well, what is the job? They are not able to articulate much more than would be on a job description. Okay, that's one of the things I've observed over the years is that people know they know what the next rung on the ladder would be in terms of title and comp, but they don't fully intimately understand the job. And that becomes a bit of a hindrance, okay? Because it's like chasing something that you don't even know what it looks like. How are you going to catch it? How will you know? Okay. So this is perhaps the most important topic for us to be talking about right now for those of you who are looking to land your next role. And this applies internally or externally. Okay. By the way, it doesn't matter whether you're looking internally or externally, this will apply. If you don't know the job, how can you actually expect to land it? How can you expect to be the last person standing? When you have a job posting where there are 200 applicants already by midday of the job being posted, there are 200 applicants and there are 10 inside track applicants. There are 10 shortlisted candidates. There are 10 people who someone has made a phone call and said, hey, talk to that person, right? There are 10 people who are sort of like finalists for the opportunity. If you don't know the job and those 10 people are on the inside track, they've done the job before, they've had the title before, and you have not done your homework to really understand this job, you are swimming upstream and it's likely not going to go in your favor. Okay, so that's why this topic is so important. And this is why so many upwardly mobile otherwise smart leaders end up stuck at the same level. Because what happens is maybe you're someone who's a director who wants to be VP, and so you shoot your shot, right? You go, you see a job posting, you apply for a VP role, you have a couple conversations, it doesn't go your way, and then you scale back. You tell yourself, it's just not the right time. I need more experience. I just don't have the number of years of experience I would need, and so let me just do it next year or do it the year after. No, that was never the right conclusion. You're drawing the wrong conclusion. Okay, it's not that it's not the right time. It's that you didn't fully understand the job, and so you couldn't compete for it. You couldn't compete effectively for the job. You weren't a real contender because you didn't understand beyond what it said on the job description. Do you know that many jobs at this level don't even have a JD? We were just talking to somebody, one of our clients who's landing a role. The role's already been, it's done. She's got the job. She's got the offer. Guess what? There's no JD. They're now starting to write the JD after she's already gotten the job. So if you're relying and over relying and hyper fixating on the job description, please know that that is not, that will get you 20%. 20% of what the job is, 20% of what the operating reality in the job on a day-to-day basis is, okay? It's hard to convince someone that you are an undeniable fit if you don't understand the job intimately, if you don't understand its requirements intimately, okay? So again, I'm not talking about what you can find on the JD. I'm talking about what is between the lines of the job description. And I actually made a list here of some of the things that this would include because I don't want to leave you hanging, right? I want you to know what I'm talking about so that you can begin to ask yourself whether you intimately understand these things, whether you have a good understanding of these elements as it relates to the job that you're looking for. And you should understand that each job will vary. So the list I'm about to give you, and it's a pretty long list here, it will vary depending on the level. If you're a C-suite leader or an aspiring C-suite leader, the list will look different for you, or the application of this list will look different for you versus someone who's looking at a director level role. Okay, so let's talk about what some of these things are. Okay, how well do you understand what this person in this job is actually accountable for, not just responsible for, but what they're accountable for? Do you know? Do you know what this person is accountable for? What outcomes they are accountable for? Do you know what decisions are their decisions that they make and the kinds of decisions they need other people to ratify? How well do you understand their decision-making abilities and expectations and requirements for the job, right? What kinds of trade-offs are they navigating every day? See, if you don't know, if you work for, let's say, for instance, this job that you're looking at is your boss's job. Okay, your boss has this title right now. You may not even really know what the trade-offs are. You are sitting at your own desk, you're bringing certain challenges to them and expecting them to resolve these challenges. They're going back to their desk, they're going back to their conference rooms, they're going back into the meetings, and they're making certain trade-offs and certain negotiations are happening. But you don't know that. And so now when you go to interview or you go to tell your story, you can't talk about those things because you don't know. And so you don't sound believable. What are the trade-offs that they're navigating? Okay. What is the required level or tolerance for risk? What is the required risk tolerance that this person has in their day-to-day job? What are the kinds of mistakes they can survive and the kinds of mistakes that are career ending? How well do you understand that? What level of pressure is required? What level of pressure and even I would say emotional labor? There's a bit of emotional labor that happens the higher up you go. What level of that is required? How well do you understand that? Okay. What kind of pressure are they dealing with? Again, you may be responsible for giving them the report. You got the report done on time, but you don't know what happens once that report's done, where it goes, and what kind of pressure that they're getting. You don't understand what's happening in those meetings behind the scenes. Okay, you don't understand who we used to call it getting pulled through a keyhole. Like that was a kind of our funny terminology. You don't understand who's getting pulled through a keyhole, okay, based on something that didn't materialize or didn't go as well, or a missed KPI, a missed quarter. These are the kinds of things that you have to understand well so that you appear believable. You appear like someone who has done this job before, okay? What level of uncertainty and ambiguity is inherent in their role? What level of uncertainty and ambiguity is inherent in their role? You may be somebody who in your current role has a fair amount of certainty. You know, I'll give you this is a perfect example. I was talking to our clients about this. Most people in the corporate landscape wait until their goals are given to them. So typically, if you're on a normal, corporate calendar, you probably won't get your goals till March or April. Okay. The first quarter of the year, there are no goals. And so most people are waiting for the goals to be created and then cascaded to them. Okay. So they're waiting for certainty. They're waiting to be told. At the higher up you go, you will have less certainty. Okay, less certainty, less ambiguity. You will be required to be the person who is creating certainty for your teams, right? It's a different skill from perhaps the one that you've been using, a different muscle. So, what level of certainty and ambiguity is inherent in their job? What skills and what kinds of skills is this person using every single day? Before noon, they've already used these skills 10 times. What are those skills? The kinds of skills that have to be second nature if you're going to crush it in this job. What are those? Do you know? Are you paying attention? What level of conflict hits their desk, right? This person is likely an escalation point for you. Again, if this is your boss or your boss's boss, they're probably an escalation point, which means if there's something you can't figure out, if there's conflict you can't resolve, if there's a stakeholder that's being too difficult and is not playing ball, so you can't move the thing forward, that's who you're going to escalate to as your boss or your boss's boss. Well, how are they resolving that conflict when it hits their desk? How privy are you to that? How will you then know how to resolve it when it hits your desk, right? What kind of or level of communication is required? Who are they communicating to? And at what level? And what kind of communication, right? You ever notice, like, let's say that you are giving a presentation on behalf of your team and your boss is in the room with you. You ever notice maybe at certain points you might say something on the slide or explain it a certain way, and then your boss will sort of come in and clean it up a little bit or say it differently or highlight certain elements. Maybe that's happened with you. Maybe you've seen that happen to other people. Maybe you're the person doing that with other people. Do you see that there's a different role and there's a different level of communicating that needs to happen? When you are at the seat at the higher level, it's almost like you have eyes behind your head because you're paying attention to everyone in the room. You know who the stakeholders are. You know who is likely to be a detractor. You know who's likely going to have an issue with whatever is being discussed. You know who's likely going to be concerned about how it impacts their area. And so you're constantly listening to your team member who's presenting, but also listening to how it's landing and then making the necessary adjustments. It's like walking and chewing gum, and that's a skill. So that level of communication and that level of awareness, not just of yourself, but of the entire room, okay, is so important. And that's what I mean. If you don't understand that, do you see how your interview stories will not land? They will be bland. They will sound like Chat GPT. They will sound like you didn't really do it. It will sound like, yeah, we had a problem. I put a strategy in place and I solved it and I fixed it and boom, done. And no one will believe you. No one will because no, there are no simple problems anymore. All the problems are complex. All the problems are there's no low-hanging fruit, right? And so if your stories are missing these elements, this is likely costing you, okay? Who reports to them? How many different stakeholder groups do they need to influence? I kind of covered that one already. And then last but not least, what kinds of relationships or political capital do they need to be creating and nurturing and leveraging and expending, right? How are they building goodwill across the organization on their behalf and on the behalf of the entire team that they lead? These are, and this is not exhaustive, right? I jotted these down 10 minutes before this episode, just off the top of my head. And I know that there's so many more. There's so many more of these. And so my point here is not for you to try to be exhaustive and then to say, well, I'm not ready because I don't have the answer to all these questions. And there are 20 more questions I don't have the answer to. No, if you do that, you'll never make a step. You'll never take the next step. You'll never land the job. So that's not really the point. Okay. The point is for you to ask yourself, okay, how many of these things do I know and am I conversant with? How well have I been paying attention to what's happening around me? Have I had my head down on my desk, just working, 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 doing my own thing, working on my own silo? Or am I paying attention to the right elements? Am I having the right conversations with the right people to broaden and deepen my understanding of what happens outside my desk, right? That's what I really want you to get from this episode. Okay. So again, nothing I've said here is on the JD. Okay, nothing I've said here is on the JD. These are not captured on the JD. And if you don't know them well, again, your stories will not land. Okay, the interview panel will not believe that you have operated at this level before, and that will affect your candidacy for the role. Okay, and the other thing, candidly, is how can you even know if you want the job if you don't know what the job really is? How can you know if you want the job if you don't really know what the job is? These questions are what help you know what the job is. Okay, this is how you know what the job is. This is how you know what your day will likely be like when you wake up in the morning and you go to work. Okay, this is how you'll know. Because if you don't know how the job really works, you probably don't really want it. You probably don't really want a promotion. You likely want the outcome, the pay, the title, the prestige to be able to say at a dinner party, I am C-suite leader of blah, blah, blah. I'm VP of blah, blah, blah. That's what you really want. You don't want the responsibility. Okay. And the hiring teams, the hiring committees, they can tell. They can tell. Okay, I had a boss who ended up being a friend of mine who we kind of joked about this. He would always say, such and such is asking for a promotion. And when I ask him why, he always asks, why do you want the promotion? And he can tell the people who are just like stomped or giving some kind of canned answer of like, oh, I just want to grow, right? And those who have done the work, who know what it takes, who actually knows what the job is, right? There's a difference in how you answer that question. And so that was his litmus test of being able to figure out who just wanted more money. Okay. So hiring teams, hiring committees, they can tell. Your boss can tell. And your boss is not going to risk their neck fighting for somebody who they know is just being really plainly opportunistic and has not done any work to understand what the job really is and really is just after more money. They're not going to stick their neck out despite what they may be telling you in your conversations with them. Okay. So again, if you don't know what the job is, you're likely not putting out the right signals. It's likely that hiring managers can tell or hiring committees can tell. And that's why the job keeps going to somebody else. Frankly, for those of you who have maybe not been able to land the job, it's likely something like this is standing in the way. And that's why the job does not go to you, it goes to someone else. But we can fix this, okay? We can fix this. It's time for you to keep your eyes and your ears to the ground. Listen, pay attention. Who's doing the job today? How are they doing it today? Figure out who's really good at it and who kind of sucks at it, right? Figure it out. Figure out who is a good role model. Who are you wanting to observe? And how are they doing this? What is landing on their desk? Okay. What things land on their desk that they absorb and what do they deflect and delegate? Okay. And how are they doing that? And how are they deciding? Ask better questions of them, right? Ask better questions. Pay attention to who is being trusted when there's moments of pressure, okay, in the room and not who's just speaking to be speaking. Pay attention to the nuance and the details and the subtleties. That's how you do this, okay? The role is not going to go to the person who wants it the most. It's going to go to the person who understands it the best. Thank you for listening. I hope that this episode has made a difference for you. If it has, I hope that you'll share it with somebody else in your network who you know is on the precipice of landing their next job. This may just be the thing that's standing in her way in landing that role. So I hope that you'll pay it forward by sharing it with her. And if you are interested in our masterclass, again, we'll talk about how to land your next skip level promotion externally to senior director, VP in the C-suite. So if that's of interest to you, click the link in the show notes and I hope to see you there.